Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. I'm joined today by Molly McKinley. She is a marketing consultant at First.io. She is also the founder and CEO of Intentionalities. Molly, how are you doing today?
I'm well. Thanks for having me, Logan.
Thank you so much for joining me. Molly, we are going to be diving into some specific strategies for relationship marketing today that I think is going to be valuable to marketers in a variety of roles. But before we do that, Molly, I would love for you to share a little bit about your background. I understand you've got a little bit of mixture of marketing and PR, and maybe a little bit of context on what you and the team at First.io are up to, as well as with your company, Intentionalities.
Yeah, absolutely. So my roots are, I used to be an art dealer. When I first was an art history, fine art major, and started as an art dealer back in San Francisco, and sort of found my way into public relations. And so had a very successful career in high-tech PR, and did that for years and years, which is really important to understand because that training serves really as the foundation for all of the marketing strategies that I have tried over the years. And that is the power of third parties. And that plays really, really nicely today in our digital world where third parties, not only for validation, but distribution matter so, so much. So my work with First.io, which is an artificial intelligence company, that helps real estate agents understand their network of who is most likely to buy and sell. And this actually is really important when networks get over 200 because we can't actually manage more than that. The data is I think you can manage properly 200 people in your personal sphere. So most real estate agents have 2,000. And so they need that extra layer of understanding where to put their time or where to put their effort and spend their time. And so I've been helping First develop a brand and get their content up and running. And with my business, I'm actually just getting ready to launch that. So end of January 2019. And Intentionalities is a subscription gift company that allows people to send something thoughtful and intentional as a gift, and then also add a stay in touch system so that they are relevant and have a beautiful way to stay connected throughout the year. And the kits basically include an intention, a tea with an herbal blend that supports the intention, and an aromatherapy candle that also correlates. And that's the work that we're doing there.
Nice. Very cool. Well, interesting to hear, your journey through PR and marketing and weaving in, some of the passions that you talked about as we were chatting offline before we hit record here in Intentionalities. And I think this common thread of relationship marketing is obviously something that you're passionate about. So I think a great place to kick off the conversation, Molly, is, from your perspective, what is the biggest reason why marketers, salespeople, brands need to be thinking about relationship marketing these days?
Well, it's important because, when we're thinking about successful businesses and healthy metrics, understanding customer retention is absolutely a part of that story, right? And so oftentimes B2B companies spend so much time focusing on acquisition and then less on retention. But really keeping and creating loyal, happy customers over a period of time is not only more fulfilling, right, to work that way, but creating this band of advocates who are willing to preach and speak about the brand and defend the brand in needed times and stand up and raise their hand for the brand. That's where you actually create communities. And that's where you can, and really, to quote Jerry Maguire, where companies really reach the Quan, and where you have that loyal group of people who are believing you and rooting for you. And really, that's what it's about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you touched on something very timely there, Molly. I think we all understand these days that a brand is more than a logo, but I heard it summed up really well. I believe it was the co-founder of a company called Brandless on Donald Miller's Story Brand podcast. And basically the way she summed it up was a brand is what a friend tells a friend. Right. Would you say that you agree with that? That, if we seek to build community, to build advocates, then we need to be thinking about what are those members of the community going to tell their friends about our brand when we're not around, right?
That's it. And we remember things by the emotions that are created, right? And so that's how, connections happen in the emotional parts of our brain. And so it's really important to understand, well, how are we actually going to connect with these folks, connect with our customers, and so that we actually can create that loyalty, right? And it's not just about product features, it's not about that, but what do the product features do for them? How will this hit a pain? So it's just that layering of the why. And I know that's an overused frame, but it really is, because it's about connecting to the heart or the pain or the emotion. And for me, having that background in public relations, I genuinely understand how important that third party validation is, that word of mouth marketing. And in our digital world, where the web creates this beautiful connections where pretty much, we have the ability to search reviews and, people ask friends in their neighborhood, listservs and, next doors and email groups, people vet things online. And so making sure that we understand that and the power of and the importance of advocacy for referrals and word of mouth marketing is absolutely a critical component. It's not just about the review, right? But it's the yes and. So really understanding how important that is, really for any kind of business.
Yeah. And we see that, if it's on the Nextdoor app or if it's an Amazon review, we understand that people, whether they're B2B buyers or B2C buyers, that they trust people more than they trust brands. Even if I've never met this person who is reviewing another product on Amazon, as long as it's not, incoherent, I don't have any reason not to trust them. And so in my mind, Molly, focusing on relationship marketing is almost not taking advantage of, but it's leaning into that same concept that can work against you, but making it work for you by creating more of that one-to-one connection with the people of your brand. Would you say that that's true?
I would agree. And I would say it's intentional and strategic, right? It's not something that is an afterthought, right? Understanding that the power of your online presence, your reputation that you manage online, what are people saying about you? How are they saying it? And being really, really strategic to manage that is as important to build a beloved brand as it's just about anything else. It's not, like to your point, not just about the logos and the colors and anymore, the brand for me is really like, what is this emotion that we are connecting to? And is that emotion resonating through our people? And is that what they're saying about us? But yeah, it's, which for some that may feel soft, they're not hard metrics, but it is critical online.
All right, today's growth story revolves around search engine marketing, and we'll be shining the spotlight on Aegis Software, a company that makes software for manufacturing operations. Aegis was one of the first companies in their space to invest in search marketing, but as competition grew, their performance plateaued. To counter this, they hired Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. With unparalleled experience in inbound lead gen for B2B companies, Directive was able to increase Aegis's monthly online leads by 457%, while at the same time lowering their cost per lead by 147%. Now I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
So, Molly, you've got a passion for relationship marketing. Your company is looking to equip people to do it better. I would love to kind of round out the conversation a little bit here with maybe some do's and don'ts. What do you see as working well and not working well? You mentioned being intentional and strategic. What are some of those things, within that concept that you would recommend people do, or at least start to think about when they think about how do I approach relationship marketing and lean into this aspect of being more intentional and developing the relationships over the long term with my clients?
Yeah, the way that I like to think about this is understanding that we are at the very essence people to people, right? And marketing really is just a series of conversations with a customer or a prospect. And so really understanding where we are in relationship with that person, or what stage of the relationship we are with that person, is critical. And human to human, right? This sort of falls into that emotional intelligence bucket, right? That is just starting to gain some momentum, right? I think, brands just sort of blast, right? And even though the short-term metrics may say, yes, they're opening these, things, they're responding to this, but are they responding the way that you would want them if you were going to be, in relationship with them in the long term? And so I think the challenge is always weighing the short term with the long term and having that layer or that filter of, is this the conversation that I want to be having with this person a year from now, 2 years from now? And is what I'm saying today going to instill the loyalty that I want from them over the long haul? Or am I baiting and switching, and really giving yourself a true filter of, all right, you know what, this may get the open, this may get the click, but it's not going to create the advocate over time. And so that's how I would present it, is understanding where you are in the stage of the relationship with your customer prospect and making sure that you're having the right conversation with the person at the right time and not asking for something before you've earned it. Right. And, just good old fashioned EQ.
Right. So it sounds like we really need to start thinking about our relationships with our customers in the same way that we think about relationships with other people in our lives. Our spouses, our kids, our friends. We're not going to ask more than we give. We're going to be thoughtful about where are we at in the relationship, if this is right to bring up or too much to ask, right?
It is. Yeah. And I do feel like, I'm a yogi, right? So for me, I always try to apply that into everything I do. Like, well, would I want to be the recipient of this? Is this valuable, really? Or are we just contributing to the noise? And just asking yourself those questions. How would I feel on the receiving end of this? And is this valuable? That's a really good place to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that, Molly. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really can tell that you've got a passion for relationship marketing and for bringing the humanness back to marketing. Very interesting to hear about, your story weaving in and out of PR and how that led you to found your company. So with all the things that you've got going these days, what would be the best way for people to reach out if they want to learn more about Intentionalities or First.io or just stay connected with you? What's the best way for them to find you?
Well, the best way to find me is on LinkedIn, Molly McKinley. And the Intentionalities site, intentionaliteas.com, is going live in the end of January. And for First and for AI for real estate agents, you can find me at first.io.
Awesome. Well, Molly, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Logan.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. You know, all those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.